Hello, this is Josh Bloom, and I am writing this on Friday morning instead of Thursday evening, so I apologize for getting this podcast out to you late this week. What happened? Nothing. I just wanted to write about how I was getting the podcast out late this week, and I didn't want to have to lie about it. I am nothing if not honest, and if I am being honest, I am nothing. That's not true. It sounded kind of poetic though, right? Like that Whitney Houston song, I Am Nothing. Wait, that song is called I Have Nothing. Wow, there's a big difference there, huh? Well, the truth is, I also have nothing. Hey, it's Josh. Really though, the podcast is late because I decided to get some sleep. If I really have nothing, it is sleep, and I decided to reset my internal clock so that I could be awake and ready to go at 6:17 a.m., and here I am. The reason I have been sleep deprived is because of the book project I have been telling you about that requires most of my mental energy. I didn't realize it would also require emotional and even physical energy as well. Hint, hint, the word energy plays a big part in this book. The unexpected emotional part has to do with writing from the heart, which means having to feel the words, and that is draining. The physical part is in why I am writing at 6:21 a.m. now. So much mental and emotional energy focused and expended requires a refresh, and since I have never written a book before, I did not know how important that refresh is. If you want to support my efforts, you can make a small donation by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Josh Bloom. It's only $3. My therapist bought me a coffee this week, which was a nice surprise, but when he later brought up this podcast during our session yesterday, I realized that he only bought me a coffee to butter me up for a confrontation about my content. And when I say confrontation, I mean he did his job by asking me about some of what I said on here, and I was frustrated that I would actually have to spend the therapy session talking about myself. Wait, not talking about myself, that's easy. I mean talking about who I am. That's not easy. Oh, when life takes us to uncomfortable places. Know what I mean? But aren't the comfortable places uncomfortable at the beginning? This is episode 40 of the Josh Bloom is desperately trying to 100% self-actualize, even though 90% is pretty decent but still not good enough apparently podcast, also known as the Josh Bloom Podcast, if you are going to tell a friend, which you are going to do. It is the latest edition of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration, days 173 through 179. I already told you what is going on with my book. I am nearing the finish line on my draft, and then I get to hand it to my editor with a smile. Why a smile? Because I am aware of being a team player who is open to criticism in order to make the final work better. Does my voice sound convincing on this matter? Good. This week on the show, I start out on day 173, challenging myself, as I stated previously, to be more vulnerable, and so I talk about not being much of an older brother. This was difficult, but worth it, because now I think that I am just so awesome for being able to be so vulnerable. I hope vulnerability turns me into even more of a conceited bastard. What does this have to do with Marvin Gaye? Keep listening. Then I discuss a chat I had with a dude at the track and how that led to remembering someone's name for what seems like the first time. I am not good at remembering names, and I tell you why. It has to do with a personality disorder that I am working on. Surprise, surprise. His name is Frank, by the way, and we drive the same car. How's that for a cliffhanger, huh? Excited now? Great. What does this have to do with the leader of the Trump administration? Stay tuned. Speaking of not remembering names, day 175 is the one-year anniversary of the tragic passing of a firefighter at a political rally in Pennsylvania, where someone we know claims to have taken incoming fire of his own. Whatever you think about what happened that day, that someone is not thinking about the firefighter. This day started with a post I made claiming that if a reporter asked the leader of the Trump administration the name of this firefighter, he had 0% chance of knowing that name. This led me to address a commenter about this topic on day 175, and then to respond to yet another supporter of the leader of the Trump administration later that day. I have included all of this back and forth for your pleasure. I hope it is pleasurable. The day is lighter on day 176 when we celebrate the completion of 12% of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. As per usual, I'd like to use these milestones to remind us all of what we are doing here. This was also the day that the leader of the Trump administration crashed the stage at the World Cup. If you are into hearing about jerk-offs showing up where they're not supposed to be, stay tuned. On day 177, I get back to vulnerability time when I admit to wasting time and discuss my endeavor to develop brisk reactions that are the best responses. What does that mean? I made it up that day, so I am still figuring it out, but I welcome any and all feedback about how I can get better and better and better at this. I also use the occasion to bring up Morris Day of the Time. I like to bring up Morris Day whenever possible. On day 178, we discuss a discussion. I was on the phone with my friend for 2.5 hours, and I proclaim it to be a perfect conversation. How does one have a perfect conversation? Stay tuned. I will explain. I also remind you that Bjork once wore a swan dress. Wasn't that fun? And then, on day 179, I calmed down a commenter named Linda who was taken aback to find out that we aren't already 10 years into the Trump administration. I let her know that I understand, but as I think about it now, at 6:52 a.m., I guess that it has been 10 years if you count all the way back to when he came down that escalator. If only he had tripped. Oh well, I am vulnerable, so I can reveal that dark thought. As usual, if you want to watch a compilation of all of this week's original TikTok posts, they are compiled in one video on YouTube. A link is in the show notes. You can also reach the Buy Me a Coffee link and all of my social media through the link in the show notes to superjews.com. That's superjerjews.com. Thanks again for listening, and now let's get into 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I will be putting my head down on this table while you're listening, and then I will be back. Day 173 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. What's going on? I'm just trying to help myself. I was never much of an older brother. I thought of this line today and I was like, oh, that could be the start of a poem, or that could be the hook in a song, or that could be day 173 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I was never much of an older brother. I have one sibling, and we mostly grew up in separate homes because we are children of divorce. But when I did end up back in the same house for a short time in my late teens, I was never much of an older brother, and from that point on, the dynamic of the relationship was set. I see friends who have siblings, and I see that even if the relationship isn't what you see on TV or in the movies, it's still family. There's an understanding, there's acceptance, there's a willingness to make sure the bond endures. I was never much of an older brother. I never assumed the role. I never thought of myself as the older brother. Someone who should be looking out. Quite the opposite. I was looking out for myself. How I got that way is no mystery to me. I lived with my father, who was completely self-centered, completely self-absorbed, and completely interested in only his own needs. Eventually, I escaped and moved in with my mother and brother. I was still not quite old enough to go out on my own, and it was chaos in the home. I'm not blaming myself for any of this. I was young. I was dumb. If anything, I am congratulating myself for recognizing my shortcomings so that I can become a better brother in the future, whether that is to my actual brother or to my brothers and sisters out here trying to survive. You may have noticed that I have yet to mention the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration. The fact is that the leader of the Trump administration was the fourth youngest of his 5 siblings. He had one younger brother who is no longer alive. I don't know if the leader of the Trump administration was much of an older brother, but if he was not, he no longer has that opportunity. When will people start getting together again? Marvin Gaye sings this in the song What's Happening, Brother, which was released just a few months before I was born. Maybe I am not the only one who can be a better brother to the brothers and sisters out here trying to survive throughout the nation. Maybe Marvin Gaye's questioning quotation can provide a similar realization for the leader of the Trump administration. Day 174 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. Are you good at remembering people's names? Well, if you are, good for you. My name's Josh Bloom. Remember it. But really, a lot of people are not good at remembering people's names, and I am one of them. And I know why. It is the same reason that the leader of the Trump administration can't remember people's names, because as you know, he seems to have a problem with this. Like, for instance, when he called Tim Cook from Apple, Tim Apple. Cook is a pretty easy name to remember, although I doubt that the leader of the Trump administration has ever cooked anything besides the books. I was at the track the other day, and on my way back to my car, there was a gentleman scraping mud off of the sidewalk. And as I walked by, I said, "Thanks for doing that." And he said, "It's a pain, isn't it?" Meaning the sidewalk covered in dried mud. And I said, "Yeah, that's why I appreciate you doing that." And we engaged in conversation. He said, "Is that your car?" I don't want to tell you what kind of car it is. You people know too much already. But I said, "Yeah." And he asked me how I like driving it. And it turns out he drives the same car as me, except for the significantly more expensive model, which is fine. Not really. I didn't have my glasses on, so I couldn't even see this guy's face, but it was a guy with a beard. That's the best I could tell. We had a very nice conversation, and as I have told you over the last few days of ignoring the Trump administration, I am trying to push myself to engage more with people, to be more social, and to be more present. So, after this pleasant, 3-hour conversation, I'm just kidding, it was probably 3 minutes, I said, "Hey, my name's Josh. I'm here like every day." And he said, "I'm Frank. I see you around here." And I said, "Cool, Frank. I will catch you next time." The fact that I remember this guy's name is Frank is because I was present during the conversation. I was engaged during the conversation. I was connected during the conversation, just like that song Connected by Elastica. I'm telling you on day 174 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration that I am often not fully present in conversations with people because of whatever the fuck is wrong with me. I want to get better at that. I think the leader of the Trump administration could get better at it too, but that is not what he's gonna do. He is not interested in that. He ignores people when they speak to him. He is only interested in himself. And that is why no one should bother to engage in productive conversation with the ignorant leader of the Trump administration. There's no way that Donald Trump remembers the name of the firefighter who lost his life a year ago in Pennsylvania. Not only is there no way that he remembers it, he doesn't care to remember it. In fact, if a reporter today, the 1-year anniversary, said to him, "Do you have any words for the family of the firefighter who passed away?" I guarantee you he would not know what that reporter was talking about. He would say, "Oh, is there some fires going on in Pennsylvania right now? We are always thinking about the firefighters." No, sir. No, sir. We are referring to the firefighter who lost his life 1 year ago today on the 1 year anniversary. Oh, yes. Very tragic. Very, very tragic. Very tragic. So tragic. He would not know that firefighter's name if his life depended on it. I hope someone will ask him. Day 175 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. Funny. He paid tribute and honored the family today. Cry more. Okay. This emotionally unhinged comment is about a post I made earlier today on the 1 year anniversary of the incident in Pennsylvania that resulted in the leader of the Trump administration commencing a marketing effort centered around a photo of himself with quote unquote blood on his face being ushered off of his incendiary rally stage by Secret Service. He subsequently wore a bandage type of item on his head that his followers also wore for a time in a cult-like display of unity. By the way, in case you didn't know, the Band-Aid jingle, I am stuck on Band-Aid brand because Band-Aid stuck on me, was written by Barry Manilow. Anyway, my video this morning was about the fact that there is absolutely zero way that the leader of the Trump administration remembers the name of the firefighter who passed away at his rally. And of course, his cult leaped to his defense all day long in the comments of that video, not attacking the leader of the Trump administration and the fact that he does not and will not and cannot remember the name of the firefighter who perished, but instead attacking me. They defend this person that they have never met and would not lift a finger to ever help them by saying, of course he honored the man today. Of course he said the firefighter's name today. Of course he reached out to the family today. Well, of course he did. If he did not do those things, then he would be justifiably called out for those things. It is on the agenda of the handlers around the leader of the Trump administration to protect him politically. It is called optics. He must do those things. That is not what I said. What I said was that if he was asked by a reporter without being prepared what the name of the firefighter was, he would absolutely not be able to tell you and would not even know what the hell you were talking about because the leader of the Trump administration does not care about other people. If this kind of thing happened to those of us who are normal, we would, of course, remember the name of this person because it would be a traumatic and tragic event that we experienced in our lives. It would be something that would never leave our consciousness. But the consciousness of the leader of the Trump administration only contains one single person, and that is the leader of the Trump administration, unless it's someone, for instance, like Rosie O'Donnell, who has embedded herself in his brain because she is someone he has a grievance with. If he had a grievance with the firefighter, if the firefighter had said something nasty about the leader of the Trump administration, well, then you can guarantee he would remember that person's name. So it is not funny. I am not crying. I am lamenting the fact that we have a president of the United States who is putting forth as much effort as he can to suppress and oppress our lives. And for that, I must call out inhumanity and implore, as I have done for so many days before, that you must ignore the Trump administration. All I hear is you making assumptions. Well, yes, that is how we perceive the world around us and the behavior of the people in it. Now, I will say that according to what I just looked up, Donald Trump did contact the family of the firefighter a couple of days ago, which I think is a good thing to do. Someone obviously said, hey, you better call them. But I maintain that if a reporter asked him right now, what is the name of the firefighter who passed away at your rally, he would not know. Day 176 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru, and I don't go up on stages where I don't belong either. I'm just trying to help myself. Well, it is another day for celebration around here on day 176 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. And it's not the kind of celebration that we saw the leader of the Trump administration partake in at the World Cup, where he got up on the stage with the winning club and then would not leave. That is not what we are here to discuss today. We are here to discuss the fact that as of this moment, We are 12%. That's right. I said 12% through 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. And when we hit these milestones, I like to take the time to remember the core mission. And that core mission has never changed. It has always remained the same. Just like that Led Zeppelin song, the song remains the same. I wonder if the leader of the Trump administration could name one Led Zeppelin song. Spoiler alert. Just like the name of the firefighter who lost his life at the leader of the Trump administration's rally a year ago, he does not know. In this case, it is not a song. It is a core mission that may seem long, but it is the self-reflective and serious philosophical pursuit that we have taken on. And what that philosophy dictates is that during these 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration, we pull back from consuming the news of the moment every moment, because the news of the moment is too many moments. In fact, that is part of how the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration attempt to distract us from their bad, sometimes illegal behavior by keeping us constantly involved with their shenanigans. What we are doing in this self-reflective and serious way as we handle the remaining 88% of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration is to regain that time that we spend consuming information, reclaim our mind from the anxiety that information causes, and use those resources to enrich our lives in order to become better people and to strive to arrive at the best versions of ourselves. Only then can we best give back to the people around us who may not be in the same frame of mind as we are. You do not need to force yourself into a situation where the World Cup champions are forced to accept their trophy with your unwanted participation. Put on some Led Zeppelin and get into a celebration of completing 12% of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. Day 177 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. Dearly beloved, I'm just trying to help myself. I am a wasteful person, and the number one thing I waste is time. I am not talking about Morris Day of the time. There is no time wasted when it comes to the time. O-E-O-E-O. Morris Day and the time are infinite. I am talking about my lifetime, which is not infinite. Do you realize how tiny increments of time add up? Like if you leave a comment, I will react to your comment, but a reaction is different from a response. A response takes time and a reaction is instantaneous. The trick is to work on getting better and better and better at my brisk reaction being the best response. The leader of the Trump administration is a very impulsive guy. He says whatever comes into his head at any given moment. He is very bad at giving brisk reactions that are the best response, and so he wastes his time and hours. And I don't want to waste my time. Take folding laundry as another example. I have like 1 million of these microfiber cloths. I think I bought a package of them that were on sale. It was like 100 microfiber cloths for 18 cents. I use them for everything. When I get them out of the laundry, am I really going to fold 100 microfiber cloths? No way, man. I just throw them in a fucking basket. It's like when the leader of the Trump administration tells 100 lies. Those are worth about 18 cents. He uses us for everything. When he gets them out of his mouth, am I really going to unfold 100 lies? No way, man. I just throw my hands up because he is a fucking basket case. If you are a follower of the leader of the Trump administration and you notice that he is wasting your time with his brisk reactions that are not the best response, and you are tired of him wasting your time and hours, perhaps consider working on getting better and better and better at your brisk reaction being the best response. Some people call this a gut feeling. Maybe you will find that your gut feeling tells you that the leader of the Trump administration is a wasteful person who is trying to make you a wasteful person too. Often, when we mull over gut feelings, it is to give ourselves permission to ignore those feelings. Ignoring gut feelings is an understandable temptation. Let's work on getting better and better and better at ignoring the Trump administration. Day 178 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. Let's do it. Do you want to have a perfect conversation? I can tell you how. I spent 2.5 hours on the phone with my friend today. I only called to say happy birthday, and 2.5 hours later, we had a perfect conversation. Do you remember the song Birthday by the band The Sugar Cubes? That's the group that Bjork was the singer in before she dumped her bandmates and wore a dress that looked like a swan to the Oscars. Isn't that fun? That's the kind of subject matter that friends have in 2.5 hour phone calls. 2.5 hours of communication, exchanging ideas, and laughter. We remembered why we're here. We recalled where we've been and how it affects where we are and where we're going. That is how you do it. And I want to convey how important it is to have these types of conversations with people in our lives. Communicating like this with people we love allows us to better understand who we are, which means we can enjoy our life more because it gives us a broader perspective. What does this have to do with Donald Trump? Yeah, I called him by his first name. I know I don't do that here on 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration, but I did it today. Why? Because he is a man. He is a person. He exists on this planet with a beating heart and lungs that breathe and a brain that works a little bit. I recognize his humanity. I have to recognize his humanity because if I do not recognize his humanity, I cannot justifiably dislike his humanity. That is the case. I do not like the man. If you go back to day 1 of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration, which I have pinned to the top of my profile, that is exactly what I say, and that is exactly what I say today on day 178. Policy schmolicy. Of course, I don't like his policies, but that's politics and that's politicians. What I don't like about the leader of the Trump administration, or Donald, if you must, is that he's a jerk off. He's just not a person who cares to connect with other people in a way that makes their lives better. There is no communication, no exchange of ideas, no laughter, no remembering why we're here, no recalling where we've been and how that affects where we are and where we're going. I don't care if you're Donald Trump's #1 supporter. You cannot look me in the eye and tell me that Donald J. Trump ever communicated anything to you on a personal level to let you know that he personally cared about you. Donald Trump does not do his job. To be a leader, you must communicate with all of the citizens of the nation. And since he has made it clear that he is not interested in having even a 2.5 minute conversation, we might as well not bother acknowledging next year's 80th birthday celebration. Let him blow out the candles alone while we ignore the Trump administration. Day 179 of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. Take a look at me now. I'm just trying to help myself. Linda says, oh my God, it's only been 177 days. It feels like 10 years. Linda, I completely understand what you are talking about. I want to use today, day 179 of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump administration, just to remind us all that this experience that we are going through is not unique. It is only unique to us. People have been through similar experiences and much, 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 much worse throughout history. I guess this is our chance to experience someone like the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration attempting to use their power to force a version of America on us that the majority of America does not want. Please remember that the leader of the Trump administration only received 49% of the vote. And so we must suffer through this, but I guarantee you, Linda, that we are going to be better for it. And in fact, we already are. Not only are we going to be better for it, we are going to be more unified and united for it, because I completely believe that surviving this test by the leader of the Trump administration is going to bring about the organization of people throughout the nation who will say, you know what? It is exhausting to continue to be at odds with one another. As Phil Collins sang in the 1984 song Against All Odds, Take a Look at Me Now. You coming back to me is against all odds. It's the chance I've got to take. We will return to a time where we can disagree on policy, but agree that at the end of the day, we want to enjoy the life that we have been given. And part of enjoying the life that we have been given is to appreciate one another for all that we do agree on. I guarantee that once the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration are no longer part of our lives, it will be because of and also result in a better nation for everyone. A nation of citizens committed to a kinder, more empathetic, and understanding collaboration. I do not doubt this. I do doubt, however, that this is the last time that I will see a comment like yours, Linda, that says, oh God, it has only been 298 days. Oh God, it has only been 752 days. Oh God, it has only been 955 days. And I completely understand that, because while the bigger picture says that all people will eventually see vindication, now we must endure the Trump administration. Hey, it's Josh. I'm awake. Do I sound awake? Do I sound woke? Well, I am woke. Do something about it. I really do hope that I comforted Linda, and I hope that she went and listened to Against All Odds, Take a Look at Me Now by Phil Collins after she saw my video. It is a pleasantly light jam that kind of sneaks up on you. If you're vulnerable like me, then you will let it touch your heart and be able to use the song as a catalyst to expose your interiority to the world. I just learned the word interiority and wanted to use it. Thanks again for listening. Please leave a 5-star rating for the Josh Bloom podcast in your podcast app and leave a comment saying that you like the show. Don't forget to follow, and well, yeah, about this telling a friend thing. Do you think that you could convince a friend to listen to the Josh Bloom podcast if you told them that Josh Bloom himself, which is me, would call your friend to thank them every week after the podcast is released, and also on the day before and after it is released, to remind them that it is coming out and to remind them to listen to it if they haven't? Would your friend like 3 calls from me per week? I can do perfect 2.5-hour calls. Let me know. Lastly, visit me everywhere for everything by going to superjews.com. That's superjews.com for links to all of my social media, and visit superjews.substack.com to subscribe to my Substack, which contains all of my long-form writing. Subscriptions are free, or for a small monthly donation, you can support my work. It helps a lot. Thanks again for listening. I will see you next week.